Hi, this is Jake Colonel by Blind Faith. This week I'd like to talk about the power of God. I opened up the Bible today and a phrase caught my attention right away. God created the earth in 7 days. And this is a well-known fact. Everyone knows it. In Christianity, that's saying that it's part of our teachings and stuff that we all know about that. But it really takes, you really have to sit down and take some time to actually think about that. When you look at how complex the earth is, how everything relies on everything else, like for example, ecosystems. I'm going for biology, so I'll pull out ecosystems as an example. They might appear simple at first, but when you dig more and more into it, you realize how much reliance each species has on everything else, and how everything relies on everything else. And you look at that really shows how powerful God is. I mean, we don't know the time frame of God. We don't know if 7 days is 7 days of our time, 7 weeks, 7 months, 7 years, 700 years, 7 million years. I mean, a day of God's is maybe not the same as our days, just because God is like timeless. He's there forever. And that's something that we really have to keep in mind, is that even though we don't know exactly, like officially, okay, what does 7 days equal, but you look at how much, like for example, I look at how much I can get done in 7 days, and if you'd ask me to even build a small building in 7 days, I'd look at you and go, that's impossible. You're gonna have a really hard time getting a building put together in 7 days. For example, a small house, because there's so much work that goes into it. And then you look at what God did in 7 days, and you just realize how much power He has, and it makes you really think about it. When things aren't going your way, no matter how small or how large, for example, you lose your job, large issue or whatever, or maybe you just made a small mistake, burnt the cookies or something in the oven. Sit down and pray to God. Ask Him for help. Ask Him for guidance, because God is willing to guide us all. I brought before, but I really like the picture of God's kind of like your beacon through the night. He guides you through the night, through the day as well. And we have to keep that in mind, that because God has all that power, He's not going to deny helping us, because God is more powerful than like a government or anything like that. So, for example, if you're having a small issue, for example, you burn your cookies, and you'd call the governor of your state or anyone, and go, I burnt my cookies, I don't know what to do. Your governor would be like, I don't have time to deal with that. But God has so much more power than the governors, than the leaders, that God does have time for you. God has time for each and every one of us. And that's what we have to keep in mind. God knows how to split up His time. God knows how to spend time with all of us and help all of us and be there for all of us, because He has that power. So next time when you're feeling like alone, afraid, deserted, there's any of that stuff, make sure you pray to God, because God is there for you. Don't keep God in your back pocket. Keep Him next to you. Ask Him to walk by your side. Because if God's walking by your side, you can never go wrong. Now, if He's in your back pocket, you can stray a little bit, because you feel like, okay, God will never know if I do this or whatever. And also, when something goes wrong, it's a lot harder, because then you're sitting there going, oh no, this went wrong, and then the next thing goes wrong. And you're like, oh no, and then You're not using God to help you. And God's waiting for you to call him for help. He wants you to ask him for help. He wants you to come to him. That's what we have to keep in mind. God is like a parent. If you're a kid and you're baking in the kitchen and you burn the cookies and are upset about it, your parents would expect you to come to them and tell them about it. If you're an adult and you lose your job, your parents would expect you to come and tell them about it and talk it over, and they'll try to help you. Picture God being everyone's father, because he basically is. I mean, he helps each and every one of us. He's there for each and every one of us, just like a parent is. Actually, I'd say that God is there even more than a parent is, because at some point, your parents, family, friends, all those people go back to God and pass away, but God will never leave you. God will never die. As long as you're on earth, he'll be with you, and then when you die, he'll bring you to be with him. If you look at God, is always with you. Don't just ignore him. Make sure you're actually asking him for help. Actually asking him for guidance, because there's so many times in our lives that we need guidance, so we're lost and confused and afraid, and we don't know what to do, and we're sitting there nervous, scared, just have no clue what to do, and God's staying right next to us going, calm down, take a deep breath, and I'll help you through this. And we just have to calm down and actually take that deep breath. Look at what God wants us to do. Look at what, as a Christian, would be the best thing to do, and do it, because it's the right thing to do in the end, and actually helps you emotionally and stuff, helps your stress, and also it just helps having God with you. So always make sure you're talking with God and keeping God with you. This is Jake Crew, Blind Faith. Thanks for watching. See you all next week.